Hey guys, in this video I want to show you how you can create this prototype. If you go to Freepik, you would see that a section of the screen remains fixed and this other section scrolls until it gets to the end, which has the pagination, and then it flows into the next section. And you'll notice that this section that was fixed is no longer fixed and has scrolled out of the viewport. The viewport is the entire screen the user sees on any device. So what I'm seeing now is my viewport. All right, so this is kind of the prototype we want to create today. Let's get into our Figma file. Now, first off, I'm going to take a screenshot of this, and I would just drag my cursor across the screen, and I've taken a screenshot. I'll drag that into my Figma interface, and this is what it looks like. Now I'm going to be recreating this design. I won't add the images, okay, but I'm going to add all the grids to ensure that we have the same something similar to what they have as a grid. It doesn't feel and someone may ask, why does a grid not feel connected in a way that they have the same dimensions? It's because this platform offers different dimensions of resources like images in our use case, and these images come from portraits to the kind of the landscape, which has like a longer width. Okay, it's rectangular in form. So these are the portraits, which can be used for things like reels, shorts, any kind of image that you would need to show the person in full this way. And then this type of images just work for billboards and so on. You can use all this kind of images for those kind of designs. So that's why, and people have different requirements for their design, and that's why they've provided this in several grids that do not feel connected. And I can imagine, based on the number of images they have, like this has over 32,000 images for just this filter that I have, Happy Black Seller. Okay, let's get right into the design. Our core is not to dissect what is showing on our screen. We're going to maintain the same screen size. I'm going to just right click on this, and I'm going to make this frame selection. Now, if you don't want to watch the design phase of this project, you can skip to somewhere close to the middle or to the end, and you would find the prototype. Let's continue. So now I'm going to break down this design so that you understand what we're going to do. First, we're going to have a top section. If you don't understand what I mean, you can watch the previous video where I talked about designing for smaller devices, and I also showed you pretty much how I design when I'm creating any design. So in this screen, we have the top section. The top section is like the navigation section, and this navigation section also breaks into the sidebar. The sidebar is also a navigation section on mobile. Think about platforms that you've used, like Bolt, for instance. If you go to Bolt, you have like kind of something similar to these informations on the left, which is the sidebar. So this content won't show up this way on other platforms. Some platforms will just have it as a simple toggle or button for the filters, and then when you click on it, then it pops up on the sidebar. If the sidebar is not already unused, because sometimes you would find this information on the top navigation, the AI suits, images, icons, and so on, you will find them as a sidebar. So what this platform Freepik has done is they've utilized the top section for these informations, and they created a more action where if you click, you would find more navigational items, and I have never clicked on more. So these items are kind of probably not so needed. Maybe there might be settings or some other features that users don't really visit that much, and they've hidden it under more, and they've utilized the sidebar for filters. So like I said, this is the top section. So we have the top section, which contains the navigation bar, which is usually on websites. It has like the what's it called, the the buttons that the user can use to navigate to create an account or to start creating something. I have never clicked on the start creating, but they have like the pricing page, and they have some other informations. They have the search bar, which is also part of the top section. You can even use an icon for this, and then when you click, it expands this way, you know. And then they have some kind of quick filters that users can use, like photos, PSD, vectors, all images, and so on. And then these are the advanced filters if users want to filter more elements. And aside this, they have the content section, which is the scroll section. This section scrolls while the user this is the only section that scrolls when the user is on this viewport. All right, and it works similar as the mobile app or on a mobile device. You're going to have the top section, like I mentioned. The settings will be part of it, and then you're going to have the scroll section, and then if you have actions on that page that the user can take, like this action where we have the nest, then it will be below. I'm going to take a screenshot of this as well because I want to include this section to the design. So I'm going to bring this into my screen, and yes, so this will now be the action section, which would be fixed on a mobile device because you want the user to be able to see this button at all times. That is only if this button is very significant, but at this moment it's not that significant, and that's why you can add it as part of the scroll section. So the images here will scroll on probably a lazy load where it shows 10 images and then it loads into another 10, or you have a button that keeps showing load more, or it shows just 10 and then it shows like the pagination and the user can keep clicking on next and so on the mobile flow or the mobile screen or mobile UI. But let us start creating this. So I'm going to cut this footer section and add it to the flow. I'll just drag this downwards a bit and paste that in there and see if it laps. Right. All right. Now that we have this information, this is basically what we want to do. I'm not going to recreate most of the design. I would just use rectangles instead to communicate the idea of those specific areas. For instance, like the filters. Let's try to do the top. For the top, I will just grab the logo. I've duplicated it. You can use any logo. I'm just basically showing you a quicker way to do this if you want to utilize the logo and just to save your time. So I'm going to just crop this out a bit. All right, and then I'll bring it back into the design. Yes, so this is good. I would type the AI suit. Usually you want this to be between 13 to 15. Some people use 16, but for me, I like to use between, like I mentioned, 13 to 15. So if I go up to like 15, you would see that this, I'm going to make this 120%. And the height, I would ensure it's perfect. Okay, so this is 15 and you can see 13. 13 works. You can use 14. I think they used 14 for theirs. I'm not a designer, so I don't really know what they used, but from what I'm doing here, I can see that they used probably 14. All right, so this is 20 in spacing, and then I'll duplicate it multiple times. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so that's 9 navigations, and I would select one of the item. Okay, and I would type in the start creating. I would make it a bit more into context because I don't know what I want to create. Maybe upload a resource, something like this. I don't know what the start creating has to I don't know where it takes you to, but this is basically what I would use just to let the user understand what they will be doing next. Okay, so we have this now. I would make this 8. I think they used 8, And I'll try to pick their color just to maintain the same structure that they have. The background will be white, and the text color here is a bit into, yeah, let's make this a bit bold, and then just move it in here. Right. All right, so I'm going to take this and I would type in pricing, okay, and try to pick their color. All right, that stays here, and then put both of them in auto layout. If you're not using auto layout, you should start using it. I'll open my material symbol as well. I'm just going to give this is probably going to be 32. Oh, it's 24. I see. It's not 24. Yeah, it's 24. It's actually 24. So the image is 24 in case you're following along. I'm going to right click and make that a frame and completely round the radius to 999. I like using 999 so that nothing is on the corner. I'll just use 0 for black and then get rid of that gray. And we have two icons I want to bring in. I would bring in notification. We can't get the exact one they used because probably they created it from scratch, like they have their own notification icon set, or their own icon set basically. But this will do. This is 24. This has given me an idea of what it is. But this is what I like to do for my icons. I would bring in a frame, make it auto layout, center it, remove the padding. But before I do that, I would change it to fixed, as long as I've discovered the height I want to use, and then I'll make the horizontal and vertical padding 0. And then now we can take this and paste it in there, and what I'll do next is remove the background, and that's it. Now we can duplicate this. This would help us align our icons every time we pick an icon, and it will also help the development team. Sometimes I've noticed that you would just find out that some of these icons, when the dev use it, they have like a gray color somewhere. I don't know what causes that, but I did a test and I noticed that it was from the icon set I was using. So I'll select the both of them, I'll move them out and then bring them in. The reason why I did that is because some of them were not in the frame, and if you notice, this alignment tool is now visible. Initially it wasn't visible, so I'll put that in this way, and I think it's 6. They've used I think they didn't use 6. I'm trying to match up what they used, but if I'm to do this, I'll put it in 8, at least 8, because the user will be using this on the web. But let's see what they have going. I just leave it at 8. I don't think it fully aligns, but yeah, 8 is good. And so with that, select both of this and put them in auto layout. Now we're done with the top section. I will just crop that out a bit, but while I'm doing that, I'd like to make the background white so that you can see what we have as a result. Okay, good. Now remember to always work with grids. If you notice, their grid system from this point to this point is probably 20 or 24. And then this part, they have quite a lot within the content section only. But in this top section, it's the same. Yeah, why they've done this is because of the spacing on the left as well. So there's a space that is equal on the both sides. Now, what I'm going to dive into next is this section, the search section. But I think what I would do is, you know what, let's just design it. I'm going to grab the icon. Okay, I'm doing this for those that may not know how to design this and would want a step-by-step guide. Now, to design this, I'll just need to do the search. I'd have the search. Their search is quite small, so probably 20, but I think I'll leave it at let's use 20, you know, and then we have 20. I will grab this text, duplicate it, and let's type the same text I was looking for. Happy black seller. All right, this is probably around 16. Yes, this is, let's try 15. I'll align this left because it was centered. That's why it wasn't flowing real well. And let's try 16. 16 is good. I would use 16. Select both of them. All right, both of them. Select both of them. Put them in auto layout. Okay, the space between them is 8. I centered align so that it doesn't feel off. All right, so center align, you can use either of these, but use the one that faces the area where you're centering, where you're aligning the item. So this is on the left hand side. If you're aligning on the right, this is on the right hand side as well. This would have an impact in your design, especially if you have this item within a container. So it's always best that you give it the right alignment. All right, now that we have this section, what I would do next is give it you see the padding that this has. So I'm going to give that, I think, 20, and then I'll give that a vertical padding of 20 as well, 20 over here. I think it's much, but we're going to do a test to see what they used. I'll remove the fill for now so that I'll be able to see what they've used. And what I can do next is, let's bring this here, and then I would reduce this 14. This is 14, and this is 20. So that works. Now this is left aligned. Remember what I said about the alignment. Now if we had put it as center aligned, it's at the point where it's supposed to be, right? It's center aligned. You can use right aligned and all of that. But now when I drag this to the end, what happened? It followed me, and this is not what we want to achieve. So what do we want to achieve? Left alignment. So I'm going to click left aligned, and it would go back to the left side. Okay, to solve it, I know someone will be saying this, you can solve it in a way that it doesn't do that. What we can do is select the text, and then I would click on the width section and change that to fill container. Now, whether it was left aligned or center aligned, it will still remain at that same position. Okay, because now the text is filling up the entire area. It's like so many people in a box or in a hall, they need to leave for other people to enter. So that's basically how the fill container works. It fills up the entire space, and you can adjust it to suit whatever you're working on. All right, so they have some key elements or key icons inside this. I'm going to grab this icon, and you see if I paste it, it's going to stay at the end. It's not working the way I want it to. It stays at the end because I have a fill container. If I don't have that fill container, this would be close to the text at the end. So play around with these auto layout settings. You would honestly really love it. Okay, I'll duplicate it again, and for these ones I'm going to ensure that they are in an auto layout, not in a, and I'm going to give it a space of 16. I think they use 16, I'm guessing, but 16 is fine because they are within like a search field. Even though on the mobile, I haven't visited this on the mobile, but on the mobile you won't find all of this. You might find the close, just the close functionality, which deletes like the text. I don't know if their own functionality deletes the text or closes the search, but since the search is fixed, it should delete the text. All right, I'm going to search for settings for this one. If you see it, tell me. So we have settings. Why is that? Okay, yes, so there's a frame inside, and that's why it wasn't working. So I'll click now to change it. Okay, I'll just copy this, click here. I don't want to do it one by one. I'll press enter. It will select all three of them. I will hit command shift arrow or control shift arrow, and it would replace all of them. All right, the next one is a photo upload, I think, to search by photo, but it's not so clear. But yeah, I would use this one. Okay, and then we finally have the close. I'll just use the bigger one, and this is going to be gray, so I'm just going to take the same color here and see if it will still be legible. Yeah, somehow I would increase the brightness, decrease the brightness of that. Let's use this. There's no harm. Okay, and I think for the curve they've used something around 4. Let's try 4. 4 works. Okay, and I don't know why they still have the search here, but I would not want to do that. So I'm going to type in search. All right, and that would be white, and the background would be this blue. I would remove the stroke, and let's make that smaller. Let's give it 8, and we'll match the curve or radius of the button. Now we'll just drag it in here. Okay, and this is, yeah, let's reduce this a bit because we added the button, so it expanded. We are using 8 now, and we need to ensure that it matches this stuff as well. For the left hand side is good, but this right hand side feels off. So you can click here and type 8. It would only impact the side you clicked on. It won't impact the both sides. So you can see I have 20 and I have 8, and the top and bottom still maintains their 8. If I go here, I have 20. That's 20 up here. So there are several ways you can use some of these tiny functionalities in Figma. I think this is a bit close. I'll just make that 16. Yeah, 16 works. And then we can now drag that to this point. You can see the red line flapping here, making us know that it's now at a good position. For this guy, I want to achieve something similar to what I have down. So I'm going to do it this way. Good. All right, it's still there. I'll select this, put it in auto layout. And then I'll go over here, select it with the first one, that's the both of them, this and this, and put them in auto layout as well. And it's going to be on auto. I would not use 585 or an actual number. I'll use auto because they're just 2 elements. I want them to spread out end to end. Okay, and so we have these elements. Now for the background, I'm going to hide the background first. And then I would click here to select the background, and you can see it selected the exact background I want. And then I'm going to grab the stroke here, select this, and paste that stroke in here. Okay, yep, this works perfectly. All right, I assume I was still typing. And I'll put a cursor at the end, and I would copy. I would take this blue for the cursor to differentiate it from the rest of the text. Good. All right, now we have the top section. I'm going to select both of them, put them in auto layout. All right, these both elements are now in auto layout, and it's time to do the final section that goes with the top section, this section. Okay, so what we're going to do with this is we're going to break this screen, what we're looking at, into 2. So we'll have 2 columns. We'll have this other column, and then we'll have this other column. All right, now let's try to understand where the column is. I'm going to use my ruler, bring in my ruler, and this kind of laps perfectly. All right, now I have the ruler. That has given us the margin or the section to focus on, or the intersection between the both columns. Now, this I'm going to design as 1 column, and this other part I'm going to design as 1 column. This icon closes out the filter and turns it into a button, but I'm not going to do that. That's on a different level. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just grab a text and type in filters. Okay, and this filters feels a bit big, so let's try 16. Yeah, 16 works. Let's try to get this. Yes, good. And then we're going to use two icons. Now we have an icon on the left and we have an icon on the right. How would we do this? Okay, so one thing I'm going to do first is bring out another ruler to get the top of this section and this, because I'm going to do something. I want everything to be pixel perfect. So I want to have this section. I want to draw like a frame around it, and I want to ensure that it matches the exact section that we have below. So I would type in filter and would see the funnel and also this one, something similar to this one. We'll use this one because it's close. Okay, and this is around 20. We'll leave it at 20. We'll duplicate this and we're going to use a different type. We're going to type in sidebar, I think side, and we have this. Let's make it fill and we'll use this. Okay, good. Would use it at 20 as 24. Okay, and let's bring this out and bring it back in. Select this, move it here, select both of them, put them in auto layout, select this, put it in auto layout. Perfect. That is exactly what we want. Now what we're going to do is maintain this section. So I'm going to go to the constraint and constrain this to the center on all sides. So you're going to see center horizontal, center vertical. What this would do for me, and I hope it works, is it will lock this to remain at this section while I add the padding. Now I'm going to give it a stroke first, and then this is fixed. I don't want it to be fixed, because if it's fixed, if I give it a horizontal padding, it would flow inside. It will push the content inside. So this is what would happen. You see what happened? It pushed the content inside. So I want it to be hog. Let it expand. So if I'm going to wear a tight cloth, this is not the best analogy, but if I'm going to wear something on my body, I don't want it to go inside my body. I don't want it to go inside my bloodstream. I want it to be on my body. So whatever padding I'm padding this, if you're padding that fufu or that bread or that flour, it keeps expanding. This is what hog content basically does for you. So with hog content, you confirm that is in hog content. Now we're going to add the padding, and this aligned perfectly. So it's 20, and let's see if the top section would work as well. So I'm going to go to the vertical padding and do the same. And as you see, our constraint locked it, so it's not going anywhere. It's still at that section. We'll try 22. 22 works, so that's 22 for this. All right, and then we're going to duplicate this for the down part, that is for these sections. Now this section has a title for some of the elements, and then it also has like the content within that title. So, and it's a bit smaller, so I'm going to type in the first thing, asset type. This would not give us much issue. So this is now getting out of hand. So what I'll do is select this. Now what I would do is make it fixed width, and I want it to maintain the same structure, and I'm going to change this to auto. All right, this is 170, change that to auto. That is perfect. And then I'll select this and reduce. It's still locked, so now I'll lock it at the top. All right, at the top, because I want the down part to flow underneath it, and you can see that working real time. Okay, now we have this at 1414, and I'm going to use the drop down. I'm going to type in chevron, should give me the up one, right? Perfect. And this what icon was that? Let's see. All the icons are different. We're not going to do that. Let's maintain the same icon for now, because we don't have so much, we don't have forever for this video. So I'm going to select the both items inside here. Let me give this a background color so that you can see what I'm doing. I'll click enter to select the both items, put them in auto layout. Okay, they are still auto. I'll select the frame itself, and then I'll change the layout. I'm changing the layout so that whatever I throw into this container remains in a vertical layout and does not shoot to the left. Now, if I leave it at the horizontal layout, let's assume I have this guy, and I'm going to use a rectangle for the rest of them. Let's assume I have this guy and I want to throw him in here. If I throw him, it's going to be on the same line with them. All right, so you can see him taking up space that hasn't paid for. So if I had done this as hog content, as a fill container, you would see that it has this. And then for this part, I'll make this auto, and you see this guy is over here. Now what I would do is change that to vertical layout. It's pretty easy, and I'm going to change the spacing here to 24. Select this square and move it downwards, and then I would see where the other location of the items are. It feels where it's supposed to be, but let's bring that up a bit. I'll just make my 20. 20 is fine. And now what I would do next is duplicate this. Okay, let's hide what is behind it. I'll duplicate this, but I want to show you another way to use the auto layout. And this is not an auto layout video, but I'll show you this. So I'll select these both items that I've duplicated and put them in an auto layout. Now they're in hog. Ensure they're in hog. I'm going to do, not hog. Ensure they're a fill container. I've done my fill container, and I'm going to change the alignment or the layout to horizontal so that they are on this way. I'll change the spacing between them to 16. Click enter to select both of them and change that curve to 4. Now I'm going to duplicate this. Now if I duplicate it one more, it's going to shoot across the screen, but this is not what I want. While it's still that way, it's fine. I can duplicate more. What I'm going to do now is select the section where that houses all of those items, and I would go over to this small tab that says wrap and click on it. It's going to wrap the content, but the only way this can work is if your content has a fixed or hogged content. If it's fill container, it would not work. Fill container in the sense that if these items, I select all of them and I change them to fill container, the stuff I just did, which is a wrap, would not work. All right, so always ensure that they have a fixed width. So if I click on this, I can now change this from 39 to somewhere around 80 should do the magic. And then I will just reduce this small because I want to have some inconsistency in the filters, and maybe get this, bring it over here and a bit smaller. Make this smaller. I just want to get some minor inconsistency. The spacing between them is 16. Let's try maybe 12, and this is 12 as well. It's dynamic. I'll click enter, and then I'll duplicate that 2 more times, and I will just get rid of this last line. Now we have this. What I'm going to do next is select this section, press enter. I want to put both of these in auto layout because we're going to have other sections in that same flow. So I'm going to select both of them, put them in auto layout. Now they're in auto layout. The space between them is 20. The text here is 16. The icon is 20, and the icon at the far right is also 20. And for these boxes, they have a height of 32. I'm just giving you kind of the dimensions so that you can also create yours. I would take this to the top. Yes, perfect. Now we have all of those content, and we have this. Now remember what we did initially. I'm going to select this. This is 14. I'm going to change. I'll change it to 20 because I want to ensure that both the left hand side this way and the right hand side and the top and bottom have kind of the same padding. The bottom we can have even more padding, but these visual focus sides should have the same padding. Okay, now we have this. I'm going to duplicate this. All right, and then I'll duplicate it. Maybe, yes, that's fine. And I'm going to create a separator. So I'll use a line, draw a line, and I'll throw it in there. And I'm going to just change the width from fixed to fill container so that it fills up the entire space. And maybe just give it a 20% opacity. I did that by hitting 2. You can use 1. 1 will give it 10%, 2 will give it 20%, 3, and so on. And you just see it on the screen as it goes by. All right, so let's go to 20. 20 is fine. I still want the user 10. 10 is fine. So I'm using 10. I'll move this up to the top. All right, duplicate it, bring it to the second line. And that is good. Now I'll select everything. The space is 20. Let's do 24. And that looks good. Nice. Now we have the first column. Let's do the second column, which I will not design any further. I'll just duplicate this because I think this video is getting even longer. And I would grab one of this. Let's try to match it up with this. I said I wasn't going to design this, but it's fine. To do this is pretty easy. Just ensure you follow the same pattern with the search bar, and you'll be able to get the icon and all of these other items. Okay, so I'll select that and paste to replace. I'll lock this again, and let's try to match that. Mind you, we have to ensure that they have the same height. So this has a height of 64. I'll just come here and type in 64, and that would have a fixed height. Perfect. All right, if you don't want to use that, which I would advise you do, you can use 11.5. I mean 10.5. If I do 10.5, it will give me not 10.5. It's already fixed, so let's make that hog. Yeah, 10.5 would give me 64. Okay, so 64. And then we can duplicate this more. Let's delete this. Select both of them. I think their spacing is like 20. Let me see. Yeah, 20 should work. All right, that's it. Select this, and we're going to run this to the end. I think it ran end to end. Yes. So we'll drag this to the end. The end would be here. I want it to end here. So I'm going to bring out another line, and let's ensure that that is perfect. Okay, good. Now, mind you, I'm going to wrap all of these guys in another frame. So I'm going to draw a frame. Okay. And this frame will run end to end. This is to ensure that whatever flows underneath stays as part of the item underneath and does not show at any part by the side. And it also allows us to give it a color that would flow to the end. Okay, now we have the color. I'll just give it a stroke, and the top section is complete. This section is also complete. I'll just align left, so I'm not using auto anymore. I'll align left, and yes, that's it. Let's do the final part. For the final part, we're going to have just one grid, but with the different contents. So this part, I would drag this, and I'm going to type in showing results for happy black seller. Align left. Okay, and let's try to match the height of this. Yes. 26 is fine. Would select this part and make it the lighter shade, and then we'll select this end and make it a bit semi bold, and I'm going to make that 0. Okay, good. Move that into place, and And for this part, we'll just take one of this, reuse it. Okay, I think the icon is a bit smaller, somewhere around 16 should do the magic. This is also smaller, somewhere around 14 should do the magic as well. We're going to type in images, and the spacing is going to be, I think we'll use 8. Center align this, move it this way. Good. We'll duplicate this first before we make it 0 to get that black, and then we'll give it the output, which is this. This feels smaller, maybe like 13. 13 should do the work. Select this and this, put them in auto layout, and then for this part we just move it this way, 10. Good. All right, we have the images, and then we are going to have collections as well. We're going to do the same thing, collections. All right, and then this is going to be 17, and both of them would have like a grayed out text just to show that they are not active. It's going to also impact the icon as well. This I would make 0. Okay, and then we'll move this in this way. Let me show you how you can create this. Although for me, I would probably had given it just a straight line to the end and just show like a very thin line just to create some visual cue. But this also works. It's a perfect visual cue. But to create this, let me show you how you can do this. So I'm going to grab this. Let's see what the height of this is. This is 2. Okay, and just lengthen that. This is going to be dynamic. What I mean by dynamic is the size is affected, the length is affected by the amount of text that the user has. So if we have both of them, we'll put them in auto layout. All right, and I'm going to change this to black first so that you can see it, and then what I'm going to do is change it to fill container. That way whatever I do within this container in the top section would impact it. For instance, if I take this and I type in image collection blah 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 blah, it doesn't quite impact it, yes, because our container is still fixed. Okay, now I'll just double tap here and just make it whole content, and that's it. If I reduce that, I remove this, it would become smaller, and it grows as I grow. Okay, something else I'm going to do is select it, right click, and put it in a frame, and then I'll put in auto layout. That frame would not have any content, but it's going to be fill container. I'm going to press enter and ensure that the inner one is also fill container. Okay, why I did this is because it's going to have another state. In the secondary state, it's going to have the grayed out section, but if I don't do this, it will impact kind of the structure of the content on that flow. So I want to ensure that it doesn't impact it that much. Even though if I align it top, it will still maintain fixed, but I want to give both of them the same height, but this item will not show up in this one. Now what I would do in this one is just press enter and delete. That's it. And you can see that the frame I added is still there. I would copy this. Now I would just copy this color, select this, and change the colors. All right, let's delete this one. I'll select both of them. I can even just put them up and down. Select both of them, put them in a component set, create component set. All right, and I will call them segmented controls. All right, and I would say is active. Is it active? Which one is active? This is active, yes or no? Yes. Yes, it is. I would use tab on my keyboard to move to the next one instead of clicking on it. And this one is not active, so I'll click no. All right, select one of these, just copy it, and then I'll come here and replace this. But first, okay, I wanted to be sure that that square is not there. And that's it. I would now duplicate this to the side, select both of them, put them in auto layout. This is 39. I'll just make that 40 because I don't think brands work with those kind of odd numbers. What's happening here? Yes, get rid of this. And then this is not active. Right. Just so you see everything in perspective, I'm going to crop as I go. Crop. Yes. Right, I want to do this other part, so just grab one of the text in here, move it here, and type in sort by. And this sort by feels a bit small. You know what? I would maintain that size, duplicate, and type most relevant. And then let's go back to our icon set. Change this to black. Okay, and now we're going to type in drop down. Just type in drop down and you find it. Good. Let's match that up. It matches. And I would drag it out and bring it back in. You know, just those tiny details that matter. All right, let's see if that matches up. This is 11. Let's use 8. 8 is perfect. For this one, this is 0. We'll just leave it at 0. Select this and the drop down and put them in auto layout, and they will be aligned top, I guess. Aligned top. Let's see. Aligned top. Okay. And let's move this into place and see how this other guy. Yeah, it's aligned top. Let's see this. This is kind of impacted because of this guy. So what I'm going to do now is, because I don't like my things looking somehow, so I'm going to just change this to maybe 16. Give it auto layout. This is going to be fixed, centered, 0 and 0. This is going to be 16. I'm going to grab this guy, select this first to see the height. This is 17. Good. Copy this guy and paste him in here. Perfect. Remove the fill, select the frame, cut that, paste to replace. Perfecto. Now what's left is just giving it some spacing, which I've given it, which is 4. And then I'll move this in a bit to match. Good. Now we're left with the last section, which is the grid for the images. And for the last part, I'll just use a box. Now for this part, I want to ensure that everything still aligns. Okay, the space between this to this can be measured, but I'll need to have a square. Okay, now that I have the square, I would hold Alt and just come closer to this line, and it's giving me 61. I don't want it to be 61, I want it to be 60. If I do that again, you see that that's 60, and that is good. Let's do this. So we'll have our first grid, and this is, I'm going to use the same grid style for the rest of the image. The space between this and this is 22. I'll make that 24, and the curve is going to be 4. Yes, 4 works. And let's just move this in a bit to 236. That's good. Duplicate this. Let's see what spacing technique they are using. Okay, it feels a bit far off. That's 30. I hate 30, so I'm going to just make my 20. Okay, 30 works, don't mind me, but this is what I'm going to just do. And then this part, I would put the grid again, and let's try to get that grid. This is 60, so I'm going to grab this and move it in. All right. And to ensure that everything matches the grid and gives me that perfection, I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to do fill container, and then from fill container I'm going to change it to fixed width. Now it gives me that fixed width that I can play with, ensure that the container itself is fixed for the entire item. And what I'm going to do next is change that to wrap. And with wrap, I can now duplicate the item maybe 4 times. Good. Right, that's it. We're going to grab this other guy and move him out. Why are you not moving out? Why? Oh, I think I now understand why it wasn't moving out. Okay, so we'll move this guy out. We don't need him for now. Get rid of this grid here, right? And we're going to have the down section shortly, but let's have this section first. Yes, this section will be part of everything here, but first let's select this with this, put in auto layout, right, and align it to give us that perfect grid. This is 59, that's good. Okay, select this, this is perfect. Delete. Okay, fill, fixed, wrap, 1 2 3 4. Good. All right, so we'll have this button. Just grab something here and just have this button over here. We just have the button at the center. I'll select this and this, put it in auto layout. Okay, change the spacing between them to like 56, and then I would give that a color. I think we already have a button, so let's just use our button. This has a height of 46 and this have a height of 33, so let's give it 45, and this will be like 32, and this will be next page, and that's okay. Okay, I'll bring this out, select this now with these guys, put them in auto layout. The space is 24, I like that, and I'm going to draw a grid, I mean a frame around it. So let's have that frame. I want all of them to be in a frame. That's this other section only, this section. Make that white, okay? And now that it's in the section, we're going to have that down section. So for this, I'll ensure both of them have the same, not the same height. Okay, I'll put them in auto layout first. So both of them are in auto layout, and I can see that it does not fill up the entire frame, and that was because of that scroll section that was showing here. So what I would do is just come in and close that out, hold Control and just move it to the right a bit, and just ensure that it laps on this grid. Let's proving stubborn. It's simpler to close. Just give it here, and okay. This is good. Let's bring this up, and for this we won't have a stroke. For this we would have a stroke. Stroke will be the same color as this. Okay, select this and this. What you're going to do for this part is, when you give it a stroke, paste that stroke color. I will change it from inside to outside, and I'll make that clip content. Aside that, I'll put both of them in auto layout. Okay, now I'm going to remove all the grid lines, the vertical and the horizontal if I have any. And yeah, I have horizontal lines. Remove all. I don't need them anymore. They've served their purpose. Okay, and now I'll put this both items, that's this two, I'll put them in auto layout. Okay, 0, and this I would make fixed. This is outside and this is 1. Let's select the frame first and hide container, hide content. Okay, I'm going to select this and duplicate it some more, and let's have this. I'll put this in auto layout as well. Change the top to something like, I don't like that it's 40. I'll come back to that pretty shortly. And for this side I would have this is height. Let's make that visible first. I want to ensure that I'm seeing this. You know what, I'll just make that 1, give it a 1 px space. This, for this, give it this color, and then outside, yeah, for the outside, to make this work, I just noticed what the problem is. To make this work, I would remove the fill from the both of them, and I will put the fill on 1. That way it would work, because both of them are now 18. I would do the same here, put a fill and then remove the fill from, I think there's like a fill color here, right? I'll do the same here, remove the fill here, enter, remove the fill here, okay, and give this a fill color. Let's move this downwards a bit. I want to understand why this is not showing. I want to ensure that we solve this before we proceed. This has a stroke, yeah. This has a stroke. This is auto. Let's make that 1. Okay, 1 is good. Yes. You know what, I'll just give it a fill here, and yes, this should work. Change that from inside to outside. Good. Yeah, that worked. 0. Okay, yes, that worked. Good. All right, so we have the top section, which is alone, and it has white. Yep. And then we have this section. Bring that close, and then I'll remove it from auto layout for now. And we're going to have this down part. I'll just try to match up the height cut that and paste that in here, center, bring it to the bottom and choose the black. Okay, good. I want this to scroll a lot, so I'm going to kind of add more to this, but first let's put both of them in auto layout. This is going to fill up the container, and we're going to just select like 5 and duplicate it multiple times. Okay, this is going to be hog. Good. And we'll move this to the side. We don't need that anymore. Move this way, which I would want to actually be in auto layout. So what we're going to do is select the frame and put everything in auto layout. Now if I try to scroll this in prototype, it won't work. Okay, it won't work the way I want it to work, because auto layout recognizes something called fixed positioning. So if we don't do this fixed position, it won't work. It won't flow beneath these guys. Okay, the best way we can ensure that it flows beneath this guy is to go to the auto layout setting here, click, and then instead of saying last on top, so the last is this one, instead of saying last on top, we're going to say first on top. This simply means that this section would be on top and then this section would be beneath, but then this would not actually give us the solution or solve whatever we want to solve here. So what I'm going to do is go back. This would make the section I want to be sticky, but it won't actually ensure that this flows underneath. Remember, what I want to do, or what we want to do today, is ensure that this part stays fixed while we scroll this section. So what I'll do is change this. I'll select this, go to prototype and click fixed, which is to stay in place. All right, and now I'm going to measure the viewport. This was the viewport, so the viewport is 995. Okay, and I would do this 995. So if we come here, you know what, I'm going to just ensure that it matches up with this guy somewhere around here. No, let's make that 995. Okay, and then for this we're just going to get rid of some of the filters just a bit, just to ensure that it's showing in the viewport. Yes, good. Okay, this part, let's see what they have here. Okay, let's just, yes. Okay, so I'll select this part. This part now, I'm going to make it what's it called, vertical scroll, and then I would come here and drag this in. I want to drag it in to ensure that the item flows within this section. If not, it would probably just stay static, or it will flow to a certain point and you would not see the rest of the item. Okay, now that we have this, I would select the frame, just type F arrow, and then I would go to prototype and click on flow starting point. Okay, because I'm not sure Figma is going to load its prototype. Figma has been having this issue for some time now. And so this is another alternative for loading the prototype, and I hope it loads. Sure that everything works out for you, because when I played the prototype, it took me over a week to play this prototype. I had to even use the web. I'm currently on the web, on the Figma web, and that was the only way I was able to play this prototype. I don't know what is wrong with the app, but I think probably they are working on it. So To ensure that you got everything correctly, I had to make some more adjustments to the prototype after it played. So I'm going to show you. So if I select the frame, you're going to see everything I have used. Now this frame or the layout is broken into three. So we have the top section, we have the sidebar, and then we have this section. But these both sections are put into an auto layout. All right, this is the auto layout. Okay, so the top section, if you go to prototype, is going to be fixed, and then the overflow would be set to no scrolling. You're basically telling the system that you don't want this section to scroll at all. If you click, you're going to find options for scroll, but you don't want it to scroll. So this is what you're going to use. Now for this section, you're going to see at the top here, I have scroll with parent, and then overflow is set to vertical. So what I'm saying is I want this to flow when it gets to its breakpoint. So the breakpoint is like the section below the last frame that would show. That is what I'm using. So this entire section that was put into an auto layout is scroll with parent, and then overflow is set to vertical. Now to go to the individual sections, the internal one as well is set to, so I have an external auto layout, okay, and then I have, if I click one more time, I have an internal auto layout. So both of them are set to the same thing. You can see when I do this, you're going to find this 0 and the red line or pink line in between the filter and the content. But in the first time, if I select this, you're going to see that this does not work. So you put it in the first frame, both ways would work for you. So you have your first frame, and why I have it this way is because of the footer section which is below this screen. So the footer section is put in an auto layout together with this frame. If the footer wasn't there, then I would not have this extra frame. Do you understand? So if I didn't have the footer, I would have it as this. Okay, if I go there, you see both of them are in auto layout, and that is why I have the first auto layout frame, because this frame, if I bring it out, you're going to see it has the footer section together with it. And if you put the footer section in this internal frame, then it would obviously not work. It will give you a one layout. So in order for me to have this 2x1 layout where I have two cards at the top and then one card below it, I had to go with what I have done. So the first one, like I said, is this one that holds the both contents that you can see and the footer. If I go to prototype, you would see I have it as scroll with parent and then overflow as vertical. If I click into selecting these both section, but not selecting them one at a time, but just selecting their section alone, you're going to see that I have it as scroll with parent and no scrolling. There's no scrolling attached to this. But what I've done is if I select the filter section, you're going to see that I have the position as sticky. So what I'm telling the system is I want this part to be at the top. It should stick to the top until this other section or whatever is beside it scrolls to the point where it ends, where this one ends. So once this one ends, then this one can scroll with the section, together with the section. So what I did is put this section as sticky and no scrolling, and then the main content section, I have it as scroll with parents, and I have it as no scrolling. You can put it vertical scrolling, it will still work, but I used no scrolling. Now, what it would do is, if I play this, if we click play, all right, we don't want it this way, so I'm just going to select it, go up here and click on play. It's going to bring us to this interface, the Figma interface, and you're going to see what we have. Now, if I scroll, you would see that what we want it to do is actually happening. So we would scroll and you see this section remains fixed and everything here is scrolling underneath this section, even though it's in an auto layout. All right, so we're going to keep scrolling, and when we get to the bottom, you would see that this other section now scrolls with it. And when we try to go up, you would see this becomes fixed, and then we can scroll back up. And then until we get to that point where the footer is supposed to display, that is when you would now see the footer section. And that's it, guys. If you have any questions, if you want me to turn this to a mobile, to make it mobile responsive, let me know and I would be happy to do that. You can also explore the Freepik website to see how it looks like on mobile and on web. And if you still want me to do that, just let me know in the comment section and I will design the mobile view live. See you soon.